Hello and welcome to our topic on substitution. So we're going to be doing this new topic which is called systems of equations. And that must mean if it's a system of equations, it's more than one equation. So for example, if I had this one here, which is mx plus b, and then I have another equation mx plus b. Well, this right here is what we call a system. And we are going to take two equations. It could be more than that, but we're going to work with maybe two. And maybe if we're lucky, I'll give you a demonstration of three. But in real life, we look at something like this. Maybe you're focused on like supply and demand. So for example, you don't need to write this down, but supply versus demand. And we do this a lot when we say demand, is that we are trying to see that if we have two numbers or one equation that maybe goes this way and maybe another equation that goes this way. So let's say a new car came out and the demand for that new car was a lot. Everybody wanted that new car, but we couldn't supply it. The manufacturer couldn't supply the materials. So maybe this is the supply, and the supply is going downward. Well, what's happening is that you have the demand. So you want the car, but there's not enough to give it to you. So we're going to kind of look at what happens at an intersection point that satisfy these two. So maybe that this point right here, this point was telling you that there's only so much that you can get from this car. There's only so many people that were going to get the car with the supplies making the car. So that's kind of what we're looking at with our systems of equations. And there's a lot more examples. But I want to focus on the substitution method for now, because this has pretty much three parts: the substitution, the elimination or addition, and graphing. And we're going to look at all three. But let's work on substitution real quick. So we're going to look at some equations. So here we go. So I want to practice on this one. So example 1. Please write this down. Now I want you to look at this. And there's a lot in this one. But remember how I said that I was supposed to give you two equations? Well, I kind of want to work and just kind of think about what we're doing before we actually get into the big chunk of it. Because this is kind of what we're doing. We are kind of looking at, well, if you have this equation, and this equation, and this equation, can you get all the variables? Or can you solve for all the variables? And that's what we're trying to look for. We're trying to see what is the solution set. We're trying to look at this. This is what we're trying to get. We are trying to get something like this. We're trying to get this point. This is a point that we are trying to get the answer for, to make this whole thing work. So let's try it out. And I bet you anything, you have the skills necessary for this. Yes, 100%. You're thinking, well, how do I get those skills? There's a way, but we have to kind of work with what we have to what we can get. So let's work on this. So first thing is, I want you to kind of look at, there's things missing in here. And I want you to see X, Y, and Z. I want you to see things are missing here. Well, can I, if there's things missing, well, I have X and Y, but no Z. Well, can I just put a 0 in its place? Well, there's no Y, Z here. Well, can I just go ahead and go plus 0? And now they kind of line up. So we are trying to figure out, well, what variable can we start with that we can solve or we can substitute for the next? So I want to start with this one. And let's rewrite this one to make it a little bit simple. I want to write it over here. So this one here, isn't it that? So let's see. Here's your line. That's going to be, what, 6? There's your first solution. There's your first solution to the X. 6. That was pretty straightforward, right? That was pretty straightforward. Well, okay. So pretty much this is done. Well, let's move on. What about this one? Why do you say this one? Well, do you see how it says 4 times X, 6Y equals 60? But don't we already have X already? So can't we just plug it into this second one and solve for Y? Yes, we can. So I'm going to go ahead and move that one down there. We got 4 times plus 6Y equals 60. Now remember why I left this parenthesis there, because that's what we're filling in. So let's do this. Let's make it 6, because it is 6, right? And then, oops, there you go. And now, PEMDAS. So 4 times 6, 24, plus 6y equals 60, right? Can I subtract 24 from both sides? So you get 6y, and then you got 60 minus 24, right? So we're subtracting 24, subtracting 24. Is that correct? So what is that? 46? Okay. Got 46. All right, 36. Now line 6 is messed up. Want to make sure, just want to check myself. So, now what do? Divide, y equals, oops, not 3, 6. You got 6. Well, x is already 6. It's okay, because this one's x and this one's y. So there's 2 solutions already. So what I want to do is kind of make a note to myself that, you know, I have my x's and y's already set. But now, can I get that z? And what do I have to do? Well, I have to come up here now, because look what happens. I have z in this one. So I'm thinking that if I put what x is for 6, what y is for 6, and unsolve for the unknown, like you've been doing all along. So I'm going to kind of just going to make a little note here. My solution should be 6, 6, and now I'm waiting for z. So I'm going to kind of go like that. And now I'm just going to fill this one in for what I know. So I have 4 parentheses plus 6 parentheses plus 5z equals 60. Oh, sorry, not 60, 70. Why am I saying that today? 70. And if you want to, okay, and now fill in what you have. So let's see, the 6 and 6, right? So 6 and 6. And now go ahead and just solve for z. So we have what? 24 plus 36 plus 5z equals 70. Just add the numbers, right? So 24 and 36. What is that? That's 10. That's 60. 60 6 plus 5 z equals that's 70. Just rewriting what I have. What do I do now? Subtract 60. Subtract 60. So then I have 5z equals 10. Now what? Well, 5 times what makes 10? 2, right? But if you want to, you can think of it this way. So, in the end, here's your solution. So if you want to, in the end, x, y, z is 6, 6, 2. That's your solution. You just found all the answers. You just found this point, I should say. Remember, these are a system of equations. These are technically 3 equations that if you were to graph on a piece of graph paper, if you were to graph these, you would see all of these graphs, you would see all of these intersect right there. You would see all of these equations intersect at this point. So this would be like almost like a 3D model. This would be almost like a 3D model. Okay? Questions on that? See? Hope you have any questions on that. Let me know on the comments. Let's do, so that was the idea. I can give you many more of these, but really this is a topic that I kind of want to discuss a little further because this is what the main topic is. We're trying to substitute for finding different variables, but we want to work with 2 equations, and they could be a little bit more cumbersome, and I kind of want to get into that. So let's work on those. And by the way, you have to practice this. You got to practice this. You can't just do this and then forget it, because it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work if you just don't practice enough. So let's do some practice here. So here we go. This is number 2. Okay. There you go. There's that one. And we have to figure out what the 2 variables are. Well, look at this. This is one equation. This is another equation. But this already has 2 in it. This, y is already 2, so guess what? Check. You got the y already. So what I'm going to do is put like a little side note, like over here. And I'm going to go x, y, but this time I'm just going to go ahead and just put 2 for my y because I already know what that is. So now, since we already know what y equals 2, what what are we going to do? We are going to take this and we are going to plug it right there. And we're going to solve for that. And here we go. So you're going to go 2x plus 8 parentheses equals 20. And now, what are we going to put right there for that parentheses? Well, you're going to put, there's a y there, right? There's a y equals 2, so you're going to put a 2 in now. So you're going to go ahead and just put, you're going to put this 2. Okay, and now you're going to solve. So you're going to go 2x plus 16 equals 20, subtract 16, you get 2x equals 4, and now the answer should be divided by 2, x equals 2. So you're going to go 2, 2. So this is your solution now. 2, 2. What if you don't believe me and you want to make sure that it works, it balances? Plug it in. So take 2, 2 and plug it in. So what is 2 times 2? 4. 8 times 2? 16, right? Equals 20. So it works. And there's your solution. Okay. Number 3. Number 3, keep doing the same thing. But this time, remember, you have x and you have y. You have x equals 5 already. Just like the number 2 here, you have one of the solutions. You have x already. So if you want to, on the top, go, x, y, but you already have 5 for your y. You already have 5 for the, 5 for the x. Well, what can I do with that? You're going to use this bottom equation and you're just going to fill what that x is, or substitute. So you're going to go 2 parentheses plus y equals 10. And now you're just going to put in 5. Because this already equals 5. And now just solve. So 2 times 5. Subtract. Is 0. So there's your solution set. There's your solution set. So these two equations should intersect at 5, 0. These two equations should intersect at 5, 0. And that's their solution. Okay? Number 4. Okay. Number 4. Now you're thinking, well, I don't have just the answer for y, I have 2x for y. So you can't just have one, you don't have an answer yet. You don't have an answer yet, so you're going to have to go back and you're going to have to substitute. And this is kind of where it gets a little bit hectic if you're not paying attention. So here's how I'm going to do this. Be very careful how you do this. What I'm going to do, since this one's already solved for y, everything is already solved for y. What I'm going to do is that I'm going to take this and I'm going to move up here. And guess what? I'm going to look right there. So what I'm going to do is go like this. This is this one here. See what I did? I put a parenthesis where the y is. I put a parenthesis where the y is. And now I'm going to fill that in with x. I'm going to take this whole thing and I'm putting 2x instead. And now, solve. Five minus that. So we get this one. Take this one, x equals 3, and now what? Go back to the original ones, and what one's already solved for y? What one's already solved for y? What one's already solved for y? Well, gee, this one. Well then, take this answer and substitute it for that one. Take this and substitute it. So y equals 2 times 3 equals 6. And there's your solution. So all you're doing is taking the two equations, solving for one variable, substituting that in for the upstairs one. And you get the answer. Okay? Number 5. They do get kind of bad. Sometimes they do get kind of they do get kind of worse. So there, this is an equation of two variables. What I wanted to do is make sure that we solve it like we did. So look at these two. This one already has it already has a y in it. Where do you see another y? What do you think we're going to do? We're going to take all of this and we're going to put it right there. Because our mission really is to solve, but our second mission really is to get everything here into the same variable, which is x in this case. So, here we go. See how I'm putting parentheses around the one I'm putting in there, which is this one here. Okay. Well, do you see how everything has X in it? You see how everything has X in it? There's no Y's anymore? That's what you want to get to. If you have that Y in there, if there's an X and a Y in there, you can't do it because you can't solve for one of them. But if you have X and a Y in this, like this one, if you have X and Y in this one, you can't really solve this one because you have two different variables, two different scenarios in there. So just solve, distribute. Be very careful with your negatives. If you need to, do a number line, but this should be negative. That's 16, right? If you need to, do this. If you need to, just to make sure. Just to make sure. $16. If you need, sure. So one of your answers should be -2. No, it's not 16. It's no, I can't do that. It should be 8. It should be just -1. What was I thinking? What was I thinking? -1. So your first answer is -1. Now, if it's -1, so if you want to, you can put it up here, -1 dash what? Okay, you need the Y now. Well, do you see how the original equation is not solved for Y? This one is solved for Y. I want to use this one. So I'm going to go and then put our answer. Make sure you pay attention, so it's going to be positive. And then you're going to subtract 6 from that, so that's going to be 5. So -1, 5 is where these two should come together. -1 and 5 should be the intersection point. It should be the intersection point of these two equations. All right. Let's do one more. I know this is getting long, but at the same time, I want to make sure the point is that you get this. So this is 6. So try this one. You might want to pause this video real quick and just see what you can do before I get to it. It's a lot easier when I'm doing it. Okay, so hopefully you had a chance to work at this a little bit. So here's what I'm going to do first. Now here's what I'm going to do first. Do you see how this is already solved for x? This is already solved for x. What I'm going to do is substitute that there. So you should have 3 parentheses minus 2y equals -3. Okay, so 2y minus 1, taking that, substitute in for x. Here's a line. Solve, distribute. See how they're all for y? See how everything's for y? Good sign. And now you're just going to combine like terms. So 6y negative minus 2y, 4y. And then you still have that -3. Okay? Add. 4y equals, is that 0? Making sure I'm doing this correctly. Y equals 0. Okay, so it looks like y is 0, which is fine. But now what? I'm going to pick any one of these. Well, let me ask you something. Pick one of them pick one of these equations that is the easiest to get the other answer. Pick one of them to get the other answer. I'm going to pick the first one. Very good. But be careful, because sometimes I would like you to write this into a ordered pair. So answer should be in an ordered pair. So the answer should be -1, 0. You should always put them in ordered pair fashion, because you're telling the reader that, hey, these two equations, their solution is here. Okay? So be very careful. All right. Long video, but there's a lot in here. This can go on for another couple of hours. But I want to make sure that you get the idea of this. And you need to watch this video again, because this can be a hard to an easy topic, depends on how you view it. So we did 6 equations or 6 problems. You should be doing 100 more, because you need to get this. So hopefully that this was okay. But you must rewatch this again. I see you in the next video.